Hi guys, Dr. Chellam and Marina from Holistic and Integrative Center of Novi. Otherwise, we are known as the Holistic Icon team. And now we're back on our Wednesday afternoon podcast. Looks like we're a couple of minutes behind schedule because as usual, we have technical difficulties. And I think Marina is trying to still get it into Instagram, and so it may or may not happen. Not sure. There you go. Okay, so today's topic is an interesting one, and this is something we don't talk about much. And a lot of people, when they come to go to a physician, I think they talk about all the things that they feel in terms of pain. But talking about libido is something that both I think men and women tend to have a little difficult time bringing it up. It is something that as a physician, we have to ask that question, do you have a problem with it? Now, erectile dysfunction, I think most men talk about it very easily because there are medications available and that's something they will talk about. But women in general never get asked this question, never get to really discuss it. And I wanted to bring it to the forefront because I think it's one of the very crucial symptoms that we should actually address, or it kind of tells us that there's an underlying problem in your physiology and biochemistry when you have a problem with libido. So let's define, I guess, what libido is. Libido really is the desire for the intimacy, and a lot of times people can go on for years without having that feeling. And the same underlying reasons that cause us to have health issues really affect libido. And let's look at the various things. If you really start looking at libido, sometimes libido is connected to infertility, and things that cause infertility can also cause a problem with libido later on in life. You may not initially have a problem with libido, but the same medical issues that cause infertility can be responsible for the loss of libido later on in life. But remember, the commonest reasons why we fall sick, again, getting back to that, do you remember what that is? The one reason why anybody and everybody can be sick is stress. Woo-hoo. And when you think about stress, if you are, like, stress is called fright or flight, or fight or flight.
Fright tonight, because it is Halloween.
It is fright. Probably
That's
it's fright.
appropriate.
That's true. That's fright. But when you're frightened, you either fight or you fly. You know, you run away from the situation or you stand and fight. When you're doing that, the last thing on your mind is having any physical intimacy, right? We just don't think about it as like a tiger or a lion or a snake attacking us. But the things that we experience in life that cause us stress is almost like we are experiencing that degree of stress like a tiger, lion, or something life-threatening is happening. At least that's
what we're just in a car and stuck in traffic. It's not life-threatening, but it is stressful all the time.
And how it becomes life-threatening is chronically. It doesn't. It's not an acute life-threatening event. So what the body does when it's stressed, it puts out those hormones that will help the body function at a higher level. Feed, kind of get you the glucose. Then it decreases your desire, number one, to eat in some people. In other people, they overeat, but generally your appetite goes down a little. Sometimes it can go up if your glucose levels, your storage is not enough. And your eyesight becomes a little sharper. Your heart rate goes up. Your muscles get more blood supply. But the rest of the organs, like sexual desire, actually goes down. So think of it, when you have a loss of libido, you really need to address, I know everybody goes for the hormones, and particularly men will want to do testosterone shots. And testosterone shots, even though temporarily, they do increase libido, particularly in women over men. They do decrease fertility. So instead of thinking about the hormones, look at what is causing your hormonal disruption. And I think those are the things we're going to address. The most important when it comes to stress, the area of the body that gets affected is what we call the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary axis. And the hypothalamic pituitary axis produces those hormones that stimulate the production of our reproductive hormones, the estrogen, the progesterone, and the testosterone.
Too.
And the adrenals too. Yes, all of them come from the HPA axis. So when one is higher, the others go low. Mm-hmm. So what happens is when you have anything that affects the HPA axis, we spoke about stress. The next one is inflammation. Mm-hmm. So if there's a chronic inflammatory status, like when you have infection, when you eat foods that are you're kind of toxic to you, the HPA axis gets suppressed, and therefore you do not get that the stimulation of the hormones, testosterone or estrogen. Women who have low estrogens tend to have low libido. As opposed to having a high estrogen. But when you have high estrogen and you have low testosterone, also you have loss of libido. So we don't win either way. We have high estrogen or low estrogen, we run into a problem. So honestly speaking, we're looking at what is causing the inflammation, which is causing the disruption of the hormones. So the inflammation can be from infection, can be from a toxin. Now, the third one, which we always bring up in any of our health-related issues, is your gut. When you have a lot of gut issues, there's
we got there quickly today.
I know, it's very simple. You know, once you understand how the body works, it's very simple. The body usually can fight infection, fight the toxins, fight your stress. But when I explain this to all our clients as the liver and the gut trying to be the body's border security patrol. So it's trying to differentiate between tourists and terrorists. So when it's something that you need, the liver has to identify, and it does a good job of identifying, saying, hey, you're nutrient dense, therefore I'm going to set you up to get digested and go to the rest of the body. But when you are a terrorist or a toxin, it has to differentiate that and eliminate it from the body. The problem is when you get a flood of these people and the liver has to sort it out, and this, you only have so many border security patrol personnel, and you have a flood of people coming, mistakes happen. And that's how our body gets disrupted. So why do we have a flood? It's usually because there is unrelenting stress, unrelenting inflammation. It could be due to how you've taken care of yourself. I met with someone yesterday who said, I have a lot of health issues, but I'm running two businesses and that seems to be very important to me. And what really happens is when you make those choices, you're doing that without realizing how these chronic issues is going to become catastrophic. So loss of libido is a huge symptom you need to pay attention to and try to resolve. Now, there is a psychological aspect too. When you're stressed or you have, you've lost connection with the person who you have the sexual intimacy with, that can also affect your libido. And that's something that, you have to identify. It takes a little time to sit down with someone and really identify what might be the cause of this loss of libido as a symptom, as opposed to going and trying to get estrogen replacement therapy or testosterone or androgen replacement therapy.
So first, figure out if you're trying to sleep with a jerk or not. And
well, that's another way. That's another way of putting it.
Let's look at your gut health.
Right. I mean, I think it's very important. And I think when you look at the history of people who have illnesses, chronic illnesses, if you really look at their history, they've lived in a relationship for 10, 15 years, hating every minute of it.
Yeah.
And you can never figure out why that happens in this day and age of what we call as independence and, I want to be.
You guys, there's Tinder, there's Bumble. Like, you're not stuck.
Yeah, a lot of times I think there are valid reasons.
Sure.
My kids are there, financial issues, but honestly, live your authentic life. Then it's very easy to differentiate whether this is the right person for you or not. That's one part of it. But I think the second part of it, let's say you have this great relationship, but you just don't have the desire. This is the relationship you want to be in. Then start looking at what is going on in your body that is disrupting your hormones. So in women, usually it's a low estrogen state, and the low estrogen state can occur in the presence of autoimmune conditions. And they found, this is actually a study that was done, and, I printed out the study. I'm so sorry, guys. This is one of those days that I left it on the table. But it was very interesting when they did the autoimmune states was one of the biggest reasons for loss of libido. Gluten sensitivity was 10% of the population, was one of the reasons for loss of libido. So as much as science, when you look at the regular medical system that says gluten sensitivity is a fad, it's actually not. They have found studies that it causes true inflammation, disrupts your, what we call the hypothalamic pituitary axis or HPA axis, and cause loss of libido. So autoimmune conditions are very important. Then the same inflammatory cycle causes what we call ovarian antibodies. So something attacks the ovary, reduces the estrogen production, in fact can cause also what is called premature ovarian failure. In fact, in the study, they looked at women whose ovaries kind of stopped producing eggs and, doing the cycling between the ages of 35 and 42. So it was very early that they lost their ability to reproduce, and that really caused two things, depression and loss of libido. Then depression per se causes a loss of libido. Hashimoto's is very, very common cause of loss of libido. So if you have very high antibodies, this is something that we find it could be because the body's focus is on trying to protect or defend itself, or the complete attacking of the organ of the body. Somehow the thyroid hormone is really connected to your sexual functioning. And then I think the other part of it is, of course, low androgen levels, which means low male hormones in a woman also causes a loss of libido. So you'll find people who inject this bioidentical hormones, they do the pellets, they actually like to do androgens in women. And the first thing that happens is they have increased sexual desire because the balance is tipped, but it's not long lasting because you've not addressed the root cause of the loss of libido. So like we always harp about in all of our podcasts, get to the root cause, because there is a root cause for each of your symptoms. To work on the root cause, your storyline is very important. Your blood testing is important. The hormones somewhat help us get to the underlying dysfunction, but then you have to work your way, rule out autoimmune disorders, rule out Hashimoto's. We got to rule out gut issues, rule out any toxins that's affecting your cells, and also measure the hormones to see, are you having a low testosterone, a low estrogen, or a high estrogen, extremely high estrogen with a low testosterone. And in men, it's not just only about testosterone. Low testosterone has been associated with infertility, so does replacing testosterone artificially also does reduce the fertility issues. So once again, when you're looking at loss of libido, you got to look at this. There's another aspect that is very important is your vascular health. Now, vascular health really affects the functioning, like sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction is due to poor blood supply, and that can come from atherosclerosis. But to some degree, when you have a lot of vascular issues, I think the hormones also do get affected. So you really, when we do our assessment, we do a metabolic panel, which includes our hormones, includes the inflammatory markers, includes your cholesterol to determine what might be the cause of the loss of libido. I think when you address the inflammation, the stressor, you really cannot do anything by just giving hormones if you don't address the underlying stressor. So always address the stressor. People will say, and then I think they did a study where parents who were taking care of disabled children, they have chronic stress. It's not going to go away because their kids are there. But when they introduced a yoga and meditation, somehow, even though the stressor was the same, the response to stress actually changed. So there are different ways you can deal with the stress. People always tell me, my job is stressful. There's nothing much I can do. There's always something you can do. The question is, are you willing to look at something different than what you've already done? It's not about taking supplements for adrenal support. It's not about getting shots for hormones. It's really about looking at your life and seeing what is it that you want at this moment in life. If the stressor is something you need to endure, like I said, having a child that's disabled or having a spouse that's not well, or having a job that you actually love, but there's a moment of stress in that, then what you really need to do is how to learn and respond to that stressor. And then, of course, getting your testing done to reduce any other insults to the body that can cause stress.
Yeah, I mean, when you have these stressors that are inevitable, or whatever, you have this situation going on. If your nutrition, for example, you're eating pizza every day and like a ton of coffee and things like that,
you're adding it to it.
Yeah, exactly. Your body doesn't have the nutrition it needs to function well. And so then it's going to be a domino effect. Okay, you have low libido, you have depression, you have all these things because you just don't have the nutrients that you need for your brain to work right, for your gut to work right, all those things.
And I think the gut bacteria gets affected, right? When you're eating food-like products. So your cells don't get nourished, your gut doesn't get nourished, your mitochondria doesn't get nourished. Though the body creates hormonal imbalances in an effort to reset. It's trying to protect you. These hormonal imbalances are not imbalances you just have. They are something that needs to happen physiologically, but they cause symptoms pathologically. If that makes sense. So instead of trying to, from outside, try to balance the hormones, our goal should be to try and see how can we get these hormones balanced by addressing the cause that's disrupting it.
Mm-hmm. And so first, when somebody comes in and says, I have loss of libido, that's a sign that there's something else that we need to dig deeper and figure out exactly why. I think so often, especially for women, it's like there's something wrong with you as a person. That's just not the case. It just means that, like you said, a hormonal imbalance, autoimmunity, something else is going on. It's our sign to look further.
Yeah, it's usually an autoimmune state that's happening. Either the gut is getting, the bacteria in the gut needs to change, or the gut itself is inflamed. And we all know about the gut-brain axis, especially if you've been listening to us. We keep talking it to
you should know
together.
About it
by
now.
You should hopefully know about it by now. But if you don't, look at our previous podcasts, and we do talk a lot about gut health. But if the gut is not healthy, the rest of the body does not get healthy. And slowly, it's just a slow process by which your hormones get disrupted. But don't start treating the hormones. Again, you're looking at it from the end. You got to look at it from the root. Mm-hmm. So the root cause is what we address with your testing and your story. And then walking through, literally what we do is we work on all the aspects of your life. It cannot be just let me talk about nutrition or supplement or hormones. We have to address all of them because all of these things got disrupted at the same time. And we have to rebuild everything. That's why it becomes a process. And the traditional way of going and seeing a doctor once or twice a year when you have an issue is never going to give you a solution. I really want people to understand, how do you really handle health issues when you actually have health issues? It is not about, I go see a doctor, I pay about $200, $300. And I'm going to be well. Or I take supplements for $200, I'm going to be well. It is really about understanding your body, connecting your story to your symptoms, getting the right testing done, and addressing all of those issues. You will find, I think this is something which is very fascinating. It happens all the time in our practice, where people by the 6th week, they're with us. They pretty much become zen. They understand everything, and people will come and say, oh my God, if you had told me 6 weeks ago to give up this, I would have never, and today I don't even care for it.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows your body as the cravings change, your thought processes change. Learn to listen to your body, nourish it, and it will function. So loss of libido is not simply about the hormones. It is much deeper than that. Make sure you get the right help and don't just let it pass. People suffer almost decades before they seek help, and it's just very unfortunate. So from a nutritional standpoint, since I'm not having any questions, we're going to have to wrap up unless anybody has any questions. Do you want to just refresh the page to see if there's any questions?
Yeah, sure.
So from a nutritional standpoint, what do we have for them?
Well, since we're talking about libido,
yes,
and it is Halloween, it's all come together for me today. We're talking about aphrodisiacs, and pumpkin seeds happen to be one of them.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So hopefully you haven't thrown out your pumpkin seeds yet, but they're very high in zinc.
Okay.
So helps for healthy sperm production, and also helps for making sure there's no testosterone deficiency for men. I don't know if it's the same for women or not.
A lot of times zinc deficiency causes thyroid dysfunction.
Yeah.
And you'll find that's where the libido issues come for women. So zinc is a very, very important mineral in every aspect of thyroid hormone production, actually.
So pumpkin seeds are very high. Also have vitamins B, E, D, C, and K, which help libido as well. Back to you have to nourish your body and all of the processes.
Those are all fat-soluble vitamins.
Interesting.
Right.
And
which means
hormones are
fat from cholesterol. And the other part is you need to have a good gallbladder to get those things absorbed. So a lot of people take supplements, but they never check their digestive process. And if you've had your gallbladder removed, you're in trouble. You really need to get your gut totally fixed before you can get these things absorbed. So that's very interesting to note.
It all comes together. So pumpkin seeds, and then you can roast them. Chili peppers are also another aphrodisiac. So you can go the spicy route. Do the chili peppers, helps to increase your heart rate and stimulate endorphins, which is great. Or you can go the sweet route and do cinnamon. So that's an age-old.
That's true. And in the Ayurvedic world, this is specific during in the Hindu culture, in the Hindu religion, during the festival season when there are prayers. It's almost like the Lent part. Onions are one thing that people don't have, raw onions or even cooked onions, and because it works as an aphrodisiac. So we couldn't eat onions during the festival season because of that reason. So a lot of foods, I think nature just has flooded us with aphrodisiacs. So
that's funny that you mentioned that, because I was reading about these aphrodisiacs, and one of them was avocado, and I don't know which religion it was, but one like priests or something, and they said the avocado looked like a testicle, and their priests weren't allowed to eat avocados because they thought they would be too sexually stimulated.
Oh my God.
I eat a lot of avocados. I don't know that I could necessarily say.
So it's like the walnuts look like brain. Avocados look like, now I'm never going to look at the avocado again.
Everybody eat an avocado a day. Big enough that much, like half, slice it in half.
That makes it exactly like a testicle then. I'm sorry, guys. I thank God it's on Facebook and Instagram, and I think we're allowed to say these things. But anyways.
Do we need parental guidance on this? Maybe we should.
I know we should, the PG-17, PG-18. Yeah. But anyways, the bottom line is I think the fatty foods in general, the good fats are probably very good. But I think these are all little things that you can do. Ultimately, handle your stress, look for the causes of inflammation, make sure you remove any toxins that are disrupting your hormones. I think that's very important. And obviously, eating to nourish your hormones, I think, is the most important thing. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. Thank you for all of you who joined us, and make sure you support our practice. We're Holistic and Integrative Center of Novi, or holisticicon.com. Our website is changing, so whatever you see on the website may not exist in a few weeks. We have, our podcast is up on iTunes. And our Facebook page is Nisha Chellam, MD. And join our Holistic Icon community. A lot of us, we complain about how the medical system is terrible, and unless you support practices like functional medical practices like ours, it's very difficult for us to provide the kind of care everybody is really looking for, and it does cause for us to really survive, function, and continue to provide this kind of care. We need to be supported. So continue to share this video with your friends so people watch our videos, get the information. I think that will be enough support to begin with. Thank you once again for those of you who joined us.
Right, thanks, guys.